Today we learn how to create this navbar inside of HTML and CSS. First of all, we create a nav container in HTML and we say we want to have an anchor tag inside of here and we want to have an anchor tag that says home. We're going to duplicate this anchor tag 4 times, for example. Let's say one of the anchor tags says mission, the other one says portfolio, the next one says about me, for example, and the last one says contact. Now we are going to add another div, and that div has the class of color, for example, but obviously choose whatever color you want. And now we're going to style this inside of CSS. So let's go into CSS. Let's target our navbar and let's say that our navbar has a display of grid. We use grid template columns to define the amount of columns, and we say we want to use repeat 5 1FR. So now we have 5 columns and each of these columns takes up 1 fraction of the available space. Let's target our anchor text inside of our navbar and say that we want to have a color of white, a font size of 16 pixels, a font family of monospace, take whatever you want though. And let's save that for now. Let's say we want to have a text decoration of none. And this will remove the underline. This still doesn't look too good though, so let's say we want to have a width of 80% for our navbar. So now this is spaced evenly and we have those 5 columns basically. So next, let's keep going by targeting this color class and say dot color. And we want to create position absolute because we want to position this one relative to our navbar. So we need to give our navbar position of relative. Let's give this one a background of red, and let's now also say that we want to have a width for our color that is equal to, and we're going to calculate that width, and it is basically equal to 100% divided by 5 because we have 5 fractions. And now we also need to add our inset to say that we want to have top, bottom, left and right of 0, and now this fills basically up all the entire available space. Let's use set index of -1 to get it behind our text, and let's use text align of center to center our text inside of this container. And now it looks like this. Still not perfect, but a lot better. So let's give it a padding of 20 pixels top and bottom and 0 left and right. So it looks already a little bit better. And now let's change this a little bit. Let's take a background color that is equal to the background color of our body and use this background color basically for our nav elements. And as you can see, our red button disappeared, but it's still there. It's just behind our nav element. So we can use an inset of 0, 0, 0, 0, but maybe top, right, bottom. So for the bottom, we should maybe use -3 pixels. And now we have this bar at the bottom because now we basically moved our background 3 pixels to the bottom. So it became visible. And I don't really like red, so we're going to use a linear gradient. We are going to use 90 degrees. We are going to use RGBA from 0, 0, 0, 0, which is just a placeholder. Let's say 0, 0, 0, 1. So it's just a placeholder though. And we're going to go here. And for this one, we basically want to use maybe some blue color. That is right here. Maybe 10% visible or 20%. And for the second color, we are just going to use a stronger blue color that just looks pretty cool. And now we basically have this effect. Obviously, nothing is happening right now once we hover over the anchor text, and we can change that next by saying, okay, once the user hovers over an nav element, so we're going to target the nth child, say the first child, and once the user hovers over the first child, we're going to change our color container, and we want to use this color container to the right or to the left depending on the position the user basically hovered. And once the user hovers over home, so basically our first child, we basically need to use transform, translate X, and we need to move it 0% to the left because we just want to keep it there. And obviously we need to use the sibling selector right here because it's obviously a sibling and not a child inside of our A tag. So we can now copy this one, paste it in a couple of times, or to be exact 5 times, and now we want to have the second child, the third child, the fourth child, and the fifth child. And once we hover over the second child, we basically want to move this container 100% to the right and 100% to the right is basically just one fraction of the available space, because for color we said that our width of color is basically 100% divided by 5, so basically 20% of the entire space. 20% is basically exactly one column. Since we defined that we have 5 columns, obviously 100% divided by 5 columns is 20%. And now we said that those 20% are basically the width of our color container. So if we move 100% to the right and those 100% are 20% of the entire width, we are basically going to go, yeah, exactly one column to the right. And you'll see that this works once I show it to you. 200% is basically 2 columns. Once we hover over our weight, I need to put 200 in there. And as you can see, 100%, 200%, 300%, and let's go for 400%. So 100, 200, 300, and 400%. And as you can see, we get this bug if we use 400%. So we go with 399%. And now we have this pretty nice effect where we have a border down there. And I think it looks pretty cool. Obviously, you can adjust it according to your needs. It would also make sense to add a transition of all ease and 0.25 seconds, basically. And now we have this cool transition effect when hovering over the elements. And that's all you need to know to create this cool navigation bar inside of HTML and CSS.